I believe the objects that I saw at close quarters were extraterrestrial in origin, and that security services of both the United States and the United Kingdom have attempted both then and now to subvert the significance of what occurred at Rendlesham Forest and RAF Bentwaters by the use of well-practiced methods of disinformation. Is that an accurate statement?
That's a very accurate statement. And the more I learn, the more I'll stand behind it. By that I mean they manipulate things, they manipulate people. For instance, I didn't discover until 4 or 5 years after the incident that 4 or 5 of the young enlisted people have been brought in and, let's say, debriefed with drugs and hypnosis. The drug was probably either sodium pentothal or sodium amyral. Are you aware that the OSI and the CIA are authorized to use almost 500 different drugs on people, all the way up to including LSD?
So here we are again. I'm your occasional host, Fred Buscanti, and welcome to Rendlesham UFO. If you've been following the series, you'll know we've covered this case's events over Christmas 1980. Those events ultimately led Deputy Base Commander Lieutenant Colonel Halt to send a memorandum to the British Ministry of Defense. After the 3 nights of UFO activity covered in earlier episodes, the so-called Halt Memorandum became the first substantial piece of evidence to enter the public domain. It surfaced more than 2 years after the events of late December 1980, but long before the 5 original witness statements emerged. Now, just to give a little context, a memo is a brief note, not a full report. A copy of Colonel Halt's memo, dated January 13, 1981, was sent to the British Ministry of Defense. As an internal document, it was not addressed directly to the ministry in Whitehall. Instead, it was sent with a covering letter written 2 days later by the base's British liaison officer, Squadron Leader Donald Moreland, which contained an underlined heading, Unidentified Flying Objects, with UFOs in brackets. Moreland calls Halt's memo a report, but is merely a brief rundown of events. Donald Moreland had been on leave throughout the incident. After returning on January 6th, he was briefed by a concerned Colonel Halt. Many years later, in an interview with British researcher Georgina Bruni on August 31, 1998, Moreland said,
Halt came to see me straight away, said it was a serious matter. He told me about the incident, and I suggested he write a memo. I thought it only right that I should inform the MOD. He wouldn't have done the memo, but I told him that the MOD should be informed if there was an unusual occurrence on the base.
If Halt was genuinely so concerned, why did he not contact Moreland's appointed deputy while Moreland was away? Moreland wondered the same thing. No clear answer has emerged. On June 23, 1992, Colonel Halt told American researcher Peter Robbins how the memo entered the public domain. Moreland had originally provided a copy to U.S. 3rd Air Force HQ. In 1983, a UFO activist group, Citizens Against UFO Secrecy, filed a Freedom of Information request. Halt recalled, I quote, "3rd Air Force called me and said, 'What should we do?' I said, 'My personal suggestion is burn the thing. I don't want all the publicity.' And he said, 'No, we have to release it under the Freedom of Information Act.'" End quote. And so the ball started rolling. The memo, entitled Unexplained Lights, comprises 3 paragraphs. The first describes the initial night, but is incorrectly dated as occurring during the early hours of the 27th December 1980 rather than the 26th. It describes a glowing, triangular, metallic object that moved through the forest. Its size was estimated to be 2 to 3 meters across the base and 2 meters high. Described as adorned with a pulsing red light on top and a bank of blue lights underneath. The object illuminated the entire forest with a white light and appeared to be hovering or on legs. It maneuvered through the trees as the men approached, before disappearing, disturbing nearby farm animals who went into a frenzy. A point often overlooked is that the memo mentions the same object was briefly sighted about 1 hour later near the back gate of Woodbridge Base. The UFO in the first paragraph is not necessarily what was described in some of the original witness statements. It suggests that even straight after the incident, personnel were confused. We shall discuss this further later in the series. The second paragraph states that the next day, 3 depressions were found where the object had been sighted on the ground.
measuring 1.5 inches deep and 7 inches in diameter. What Halt means by the next day is the morning of December 26th, since we have official documentation confirming that 2 police officers from the Suffolk Constabulary were called at 10:30 a.m. to examine those same indentations. The second paragraph then states that on the following night of December 29th, the area was checked for radiation. Peak readings were recorded near the center of a triangle formed by the depressions, and moderate readings came from the side of a tree facing them. Despite Colonel Halt's presence, the date of December 29th is wrong. These events occurred during the early hours of December 28th. The third paragraph describes events later in the night, and we know they began while the radiation readings were still being recorded. A pulsing, red, sun-like object was observed through the trees, appearing to throw off glowing particles before breaking into 5 separate white objects and disappearing. Immediately afterwards, 3 star-like objects were seen in the sky, 2 to the north, 1 to the south, all of them 10 degrees off the horizon. They all moved with rapid, sharp, angular movements, displaying red, green, and blue lights. Objects in the north, which remained in the sky for an hour or more, seemed elliptical when viewed through a lens with 8 to 12 times magnification, before turning to full circles. The object in the south was visible for 2 or 3 hours. A startling highlight of the memo being that it beamed down a stream of light from time to time. Colonel Halt ends the memo by stating that numerous individuals witnessed the events in the last 2 paragraphs, subtly adding, including the undersigned. One of the memo's most controversial features is its incorrect dating of events. Given how fresh the witness statements and supporting documents were, it is hard to believe Colonel Halt could forget that the first night fell on Christmas night, one of the most memorable dates in the Western calendar. Why?
This series has covered the core account of events as they are generally known. Less well known is that in late December 1980, British ufologists confirmed that UASAF intelligence personnel visited RAF Watton, the radar station in neighboring Norfolk, to inspect tapes linked to the Rendlesham incident. While there, they told staff that U.S. airmen had formed a cordon around a landed UFO with 3 living beings visible in shafts of light.
Although no date was given for this extraordinary account, Adrian Bustinza has described the event. He first went public in 1984, yet did not mention seeing living beings until 2019, confirming this occurred on his last night of duty, Sunday 28th into Monday, December 29th. If Halt's memo wrongly dates the 3rd night as the 29th, was that intended to obscure what USAF intelligence had told British radar staff? Other personnel also reported 4 consecutive nights of UFO activity, while the controversial testimony of Larry Warren includes stories of seeing stereotypical small alien beings. We will examine that along with Bustinza's account in later episodes. Contradictions continue unabated.
We'll delve into the reactions of the UK Ministry of Defence to Halt's memo in the next episode of Rendlesham UFO, so don't forget to subscribe. I've been your host, Fred Visconti. Until next time, to end, we'll play out with The Memo by Halt and Oats.
Hush of my warm office, where the paperwork just grows. 3 airmen split the silence, said John and Jim with his long nose. Said they all saw something gliding through the air, with a red light on the top, casting patterns everywhere. So I'm writing out this memo, and I know it's rather late. I remember it was Christmas, yet I still mixed up the dates. I haven't asked for action, I just gave it to you straight. But I'm expecting a reply soon, so I'll have to sit and wait. sat in silence, concerned about time scales, awaiting my pal Don to come back from holiday in Wales. The Christmas trees have come down, time to tighten belts. I scribbled 27th down, though my head says something else. So I'm writing out this memo, and I know it's rather late. I remember it was Christmas, yet I still mixed up the date. I haven't asked for action, I just gave it to you straight. But I'm expecting a reply soon, so I have to sit and wait. They said, no trace on radar, no need for action, just folklore, they concluded. A foolish distraction, no defense significance, an unnecessary mess. Just a colonel's misadventures and a lighthouse on the mess. So I'm writing out this memo, and I know it's rather late. I remember it was Christmas, yet I still mixed up the day. I haven't asked for action, I just gave it to you straight. But I'm expecting a reply soon, so I'll have to sit and wait. So the papers rest in files as the dust begins to rest. But sometimes I recall that uninvited guest, a triangle in the dark, a truth or truth decay, a memo overlooked as answers drift away.